We are joined with Josh Maschhoff, and Josh is the new president of the Illinois Pork Producers. And first of all, congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you.
You've been a leader through the organization. Just finished up as vice president and treasurer, and where all of you come. What is your experience within the organization?
Well, I started, thanks Stu first for recognizing that. I started with the organization and right at about COVID time, there was a vacancy. I work for, I'm Josh Maschhoff, right? I worked for the Maschhoffs out of Carlisle, Illinois. And an employee that we had at the time was looking for a different opportunity in the industry, and he took a step out and moved out of state. And so there was a vacancy, and I saw a void and said, well, if somebody needs to fill that void, I'd like to make sure that I put my hat in the ring if somebody thinks I'm qualified. So that's how I got my foot in the door. I thought it was important that we have a voice from Southern Illinois to be represented on the pork board. I know that my grandfather had served on it prior. My uncle had worked at the national level, and so threw my hat in the ring. So I started then, and about 2 years in, kind of figured out how things worked, and somebody approached me about entering into an officer role, and the rest is history. So we had a progression here through transitions and roles, and this year it ends up with me being president.
The organization has a lot of energy, and you certainly are going to bring a lot to it, but it seems to be just getting to higher speed and higher gear every year.
Well, for us, it's about trying to continue some of the traditions that we have, right? And we're wanting to continue to make sure that producers are well represented, and that they have somebody that's advocating on their behalf as a whole, when they may not be willing to think of their story as something worth being told. We may see it as something that's worth being told, and we want to make sure that others know where their food is coming from. So it's not too hard to find passion in pigs, if you will.
One of the staff members from the National Pork Board was visiting with us also, and I remember his comments within the presentation he was making to the membership. He said he was very delighted to always work with the Illinois Pork Producers Association because they contributed so much to the industry. And I thought that was a pretty good compliment, but it's very true.
We've worked really closely with the pork board at the national level. Obviously, as you well know, Chicago is a very populous market for us, and so there's a whole lot of demand there. Being inside of the state, it's critical that we look at those individuals as our primary consumers when they make up, 90% of the population in the state. And there's a range of demographics that make up Chicago. It's a very diverse population. Trying to target those core consumers in those areas and using that marketing research together with partnership at the national level through the National Pork Board is helping us to learn more about what consumers are looking for in our product and where we can really reach out to help increase domestic demand.
And I know the National Pork Board is planning on some exciting new promotion starting out later this year. You probably already know what that is, but it indicated that the consumers are going to be seeing something different and being suggested that they look at the whole hog as opposed to just a loin or a slab of bacon.
Well, no doubt. We've made it as an industry very confusing with how to cook our product and how to name it and what to call it and where to find it. But I have the same anxiousness that you do. I'm out of the loop on this one and waiting for the big surprise to be revealed. I'm looking very much forward to it. And yeah, there is a whole lot of making sure that we bring the product to the consumer in the way that they want it to be. Convenient for them. I think convenience is one of the biggest factors, as well as that taste and feel.
There's always a lot of challenges to the pork industry. There's always some economic ones. In your view of looking at where profitability is, are pork producers are they easily making some money or always challenged? And where are those pork producers who are raising 1,000 head of hog every year?
Well, I can't speak for every producer individually, but the past couple of years have been a challenge. you started by asking about the price or about the profitability, and that's very much dependent upon where the demand is and where the supply is, right? We are price takers. We very much, as producers, function based on what comes off the CME for the board price, and that's impacted by the fact that our industry exports 30% of our product across borders, and so it's critical that we maintain those trade access with outside companies. We're so much interdependent now on these other countries. So, at the national level, making sure that we have good trade relations back and forth is important. On the domestic side, we want to make sure that we can continue to bring, products that are demanded by our consumers. For the past 50 years, you could say we've worked to try to develop and promote pork, but the overall per capita consumption hasn't increased drastically. In fact, we see trends. We're doing some research, Pork Board's doing some research that sees the per capita consumption trending down with some of the younger generations, and so we're really working at how do we make sure to access those individuals and meet them where they're at.
I think they'll be seeing more the word pork on their telephone, and when they go to the grocery store looking for something, why maybe a recipe will pop up that suggests pork content in some food.
Oh yes, for sure. The Pork Board is really working, and Illinois partnering with them, our marketing chair partnering with them to make sure that we're using the same branding techniques and figuring out how to manage the relationships with not just consumers, but through retail and other food chain organizations to get that product out there to show consumers that there's more to pork than just the fresh cut that you see in the store, and there's many creative ways to make it using influencers and other social media posters to showcase that product.
That'll be one of the things coming up in the early part of your year here as president. What else do you see that's maybe on your agenda? What would you like to achieve and accomplish in the coming year for the Illinois pork producers?
Well, thank you for that question. We're always focused on, can we make sure to advocate for our industry? Obviously, we have a new administration continuing to, not lose ground, make sure that as we have some change out of representatives and senators that, we don't have any senators that have changed out in this state, but we do have some representatives, making sure that they're keenly aware of the things that affect Illinois that are happening at a national level, and then also to work with our state legislator, continuing to build relationships with them as the election has changed a few of those people over, and making sure that they understand that pork is vital to agricultural commerce in this state. As the fourth largest pork producing state in the nation, we want to make sure that those representatives understand where the food comes from, and that our whole mission in life is making sure to raise animals in a sustainable, caring way that's best for the animal, as well as providing food to put on people's plate.
California has been a challenge with Prop 12, and I know when it kind of came to a head here a few months back, there were a lot of states that saw the problems that the pork industry was having, but Illinois was not one of those. It was on the other side, and I'm sure you probably have talked to some of the state folks saying, hey, we need to turn this around and be more in favor of the producer instead of what California's done.
Well, as an organization, we represent all producers in the state, so it's very hard to pick a side. Where I may be personally may not be where the next producer is, so we need to make sure that we're trying to accommodate all of those individuals. But I think it's important that, as we continue to look to increase domestic demand, that we balance between meeting our customers where they're at and not making so many niche markets that it becomes unbearable for the producer to be able to, hit a moving target.
And then when you come back here a year from now, winding up your term, what would you like to say that I was happy to achieve in this year?
That I didn't mess anything up, I would say, is probably the best part. No, I just want to make sure to leave a lasting legacy that that can be carried on by future generations.
We congratulate Josh Maschhoff, new president of the Illinois Pork Producers Association.
Thank you very much, Stu.
Thank you, sir.